What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boys over here at Three Man Weave. I am your lovely co-host ZD in the building here with CJ. We coming at you guys live, man. It's a Monday, August 17th. And yeah, man, it's been about a week since we chopped it up. We spoke about the Dallas Mavericks last time, but welcome to the offseason files. Today we're going to be talking about the Denver Nuggets. It's exciting. We haven't spoken about them in a little whiles. Been trying to keep everything under wraps, man, as the season starts to approach and get closer. But there hasn't been a ton of news coming out, but we do have some things to talk about for a second before we get into the Nuggets offseason files. But CJ, I'm doing well, man. Over the last week, I met up with you last week. We were able to edit the vlog.
Mm-hmm.
We'll probably be able to finish that up this week, which is good because we spent a lot of time on it. We were able to shoot those shorts. And I was working, man, just working at the job and working towards the monetized channel. Appreciate the viewers. Welcome back, you guys. We love y'all. We appreciate you guys. We would not be doing this without you guys. So we appreciate it. But how are you feeling, bro? How are you doing today, man? I'm blessed to be here. And as always, I appreciate your time.
Of course, brother. Doing good. We do our catch up before we do, as always, and just told you that was able to win a natty in my stream. So shout out to that, and just it's been dope. I think it's seeing people that are consistently going to the stream, watching me play a video game. It's dope because I feel like we've always talked about doing it right. Seen, Andrew, shout out to Multi-Grid Mashup, and seen, a lot of my other friends starting to stream. So, started to dive into it these last couple of weeks, and I've been really enjoying it. So, definitely going to implement that to not just PCT, but 3-Man Weave, 54 yards, opinionated mid, everything. It's another way for us to build a community, and I think, if people tune in for a live stream, they really get to see who you are and how you act, how your personality. So it's been dope doing that, bro. And then obviously just we were able to chill last week, get a lot of the vlog done. We also shot a pod that day, so it's always dope shooting these in person. But and then doing those short form content, I feel like we're doing a good job, bro. So just want to say I'm proud of you and appreciate your time as always, and appreciate everyone that has been rocking with us this whole time. I think it's been dope. I told Z that, I was watching an older video of us when we did off-season file last year for Dallas, and it's dope seeing how nothing's really changed. Obviously the quality has gotten a lot better, and I feel like we've gotten a better flow. We have an outline that we've been able to, really work off of and help us stay in tune with what's going on, especially during the season. I feel like that's when we really get to cook in with the outlines. But just appreciative of everything, and it's dope that I think from the beginning that we have always had that good chemistry, and we've always been able to bounce ideas off of each other. And I think once you get the timing of your co-host and people that you shoot content with, it's dope to see how we've improved in all those aspects. But the content itself, how we talk and the way we talk about teams and players and this and that, it's been really the same. So obviously we've gotten a lot more reps now, so we get better over time. But from the beginning, I could see that we were already doing it at a pretty high level. We just needed to grow the brand more, figure out the short form content and all these other things. But it's been dope seeing our growth and from an inside point of view, just seeing everything and how far it's come. So I'm good, bro. Amazing. Ready to chop it up with you about some hoops and get into Denver, man. We talked about it a little bit before, but hey, man, the balance sheet is not looking that great. So we'll get to that point, but I'm doing great tone Z. I appreciate it.
Yeah, bro, it's all good. Like you said, it's there's some interesting things to talk about there, but wanted to shout out Russell Westbrook, give you the opportunity to talk about him for a minute. But
for sure,
if you guys didn't see, he retired. The Brody. We appreciate you, Russ. One of the best point guards of all time, in my opinion, man. All around. We were talking about it in our group chat, dog. The Oscar Robertson comparisons, we get it. We know Luka's obviously up there at the triple doubles and everything like that. Jokic as well. Larry Bird, if you want to throw him in there. But Russ's ability at that spot, his athleticism, his heart, his will, what he was doing, his dog mentality, it just sets him apart, bro. So we appreciate it for real. The 18 seasons, I think it was, of just pure dominance from him, bro. Even when he was older, he still would go out and play hard. And I actually got the opportunity to watch him one more time last season. It was the Spurs versus the Kings game. Spurs
At
versus
Moody?
the Kings. Yeah, at Moody. And it was definitely. I'm gonna hold that close to my heart because I didn't realize that was gonna be my last time to catch him. But you know, same with Braun too, obviously, because I'm not gonna see him again probably. But yeah, just getting to witness greatness is always something beautiful, bro. So you know, I appreciate Russell Westbrook, and one game sticks out to me, CJ. It's the you know, the game that he had actually against the Nuggets, unfortunately, a couple years ago, man. You know, 7 years ago. They go into this game, they're down 8. You know, they're pretty much down the whole game. Russell Westbrook was balling out the entire game. Nuggets kind of give it up towards the end, and the way Russ caps it off is with a 35-foot three-pointer at the end to give him a 50 burger, and that's just the Russell Westbrook that I remember. So Jokic does too. We're going to talk about the Nuggets on this show. He played with Denver and it was awesome. Played with a lot of different teams. So you're you know, the Wizards as well, like all these teams. So he's touched every fan in the NBA. So we appreciate you, bro, for real.
Bro, I might go on a little tangent, bro. Y'all know me. I'm a Thunder fan first and foremost, but Russell Westbrook, I'm not gonna lie to you, is probably my favorite personal point guard. So let me preface that. But everything ZD said, I agree with. So the thing that, for one, it was random. You know what I mean? It was just a random notification we got from Shams, and then ESPN sent, no free shout out, but shout out to Sleeper. You know what I mean? Like, that is probably the ideal sport app for anyone that wants to keep up, and for fantasy. Shout out our Dynasty. But they're also really good with like having the scoop on stuff like this. Like, I found out from Sleeper. You know what I mean? I didn't know. I didn't see it from Shams yet. Shams had dropped it, so I like texted our group chat with all the homies. I'm like, bro, Russ just retired. They're like, no, he did not. Like, send it to us. You're lying. Sent it to them. They're like, no way. I don't believe it until he says it. And then probably 10 minutes later is when we got the news from Shams, of course. But I just want to say, bro, like, you know, he is the reason why, you know, I am the way I am about everything, you know, like passionate, you know, wearing my heart on my sleeve. You know, if I do something big, I'm celebrating. And it's, you know, I saw KD say something, you know, and I don't know if you saw, he had that whole paragraph that he posted, but it was someone, it was saying that, like,
Mo Cheeks, he was with Mo Cheeks.
Mo Cheeks,
he would get there. He would ask them. He asked Mo Cheeks, guys. He was like, "Oh man, is it harder to get in work before practice or after?" And what did Mo say?
I don't remember what he said, bro.
He said before. Because Kevin Durant would get in practice, he'd get shots up after,
and then he would say after.
He would say after. And Russell Westbrook would be there drenched in sweat
by the time
by the time he got there. So I'm like, what did he say to Mo Cheeks? And Mo Cheeks was like, before. And then that's when he started realizing, like, Russ was different, bro.
Yeah. But it's just the it's the grit, it's like the mentality that he had. And I don't know, like you said, that was probably my main game too that I remember vividly, because I feel like that is when he cemented his MVP that season, was that game against the Nuggets. And fast forward now, you know, this past season, Shea had that same performance. I remember we talked about it because, you know, me, Cam, and Carlos pulled up on you. We're, you know, chopping it up about just the business and whatnot. And I remember you brought that up to me. So just seeing his career, you know, the book was written, you know what I mean? And we're seeing it be closed. And I think that's the thing that hits the hardest for me, because I literally witnessed his whole career. You know what I mean? When he got drafted, I was, you know, 11 years old, 10 years old, whatever it was. And, you know, I'm almost pushing, you know, 30 now. So it's like seeing everything unfold was just, it's been incredible. Obviously, he wasn't able to get a chip, but, you know, I know that's something a lot of people talk about. That's the GOAT conversations, this and that. And I don't know, like, we've talked about it. We did our Mount Rushmores this past last year, and he was on my Mount Rushmore, and that was a personal thing. But I think seeing all the love that he got, bro. I think he was one of those players that got so much hate throughout his career for being a quote unquote cancer in the locker room, and KD left because of Russ and this and that. It was the media talking, but looking back at it, bro, like everybody that was a teammate of Russ, everyone that, coaching staff, staff for the team, like no one ever talked ill about him. So I think that goes to show. And then seeing the reception of when he, retired, I think it said enough of his impact on the game and for everyone, people that I didn't even know were Russ fans were posting like, thank you, Russ. So it's dope to
Jumpman video.
Jumpman, yeah. So it's incredible, bro. Like it sucks that he's gone. I think we were texting each other as well in the group chat saying that he had, a couple more years in him. You know what I mean? Like just 2 years ago, he was playing meaningful minutes for the Nuggets, getting triple doubles off the bench. Like I don't think that would ever really stop for him. But I think for where he was at in his career, obviously the King, or he wasn't. I saw an article earlier, either yesterday or the other day, saying that he didn't want to take like a step back role for Acuff, but I think that's just his mentality. I don't expect anything less of Russ, and that's what made Russ one of one in my opinion. Just his, we're slowly starting to lose these people that were a part of our childhood in our adult lives now. So it's hit, but I think it'll hit once the season starts and we don't see him, and it's like, damn, like he's really out of the league now. And it's crazy to think Braun's still in the league, KD's still in the league, and they got drafted before Russ. So it's crazy, man. Just appreciative of his career and just everything he's done for me personally, and then obviously for the Thunder, and then for everyone else as well. It's dope seeing how much of impact he had on people, and I didn't know that, honestly. Like I knew he was a great player, but I didn't know that Russ, it was a beloved basketball player like this, and it's dope to see it because I feel like he's going to be one of those players that does get more love since he is retired, which sucks. But I bring it up to you all the time, and it sucks that it was the tenure that he was with your team. But everyone talks about that whole his whole stay at LA and how it was and this and that, and whatever happened there. But I feel like he revived his career a little bit towards the end of it and showed what he could still do. And he's can be a piece to a roster to compete. But yeah, man, it sucks, man. I'm not going to lie to you. Like I ain't cry or nothing, but I definitely got emotional just because I've seen his whole career play out. And it's like, man, like if people are acting like this when, the Brody retires, just imagine KD, Steph, Braun, like all these players that, are in that same realm of, some of the greatest of this our generation, probably of all time, honestly. So it's a somber moment, but happy for him, like you said. Hope he has a great other portion of his career, whatever it is that he decides to do. And I will always talk about Brody in a highlight. Like I always mention the 50-point, the triple doubles, the him wearing the mask. That's probably the era that I liked of Russ, when he broke his nose or something. He was wearing a mask, getting triple doubles, bro. I remember going to Dallas, funny enough, and watching him play. It was when KD was injured, and it was when he was getting his triple doubles. He didn't get one that game, but just being able to see him, bro. I was in nosebleeds with my family, but being in there, the dunks, bro, and the mid-range pull-ups. Like I feel like a lot of people forget about that. They're seeing the older Russ, potentially Rockets Russ on, or maybe even Wizards Russ on, and seeing his career, bro, play out it was incredible, man. My favorite point guard of all time. And if it wasn't for Shea winning that chip this 2 seasons ago, then he would be the greatest Thunder. But I got to put Shea above him at this point. But I will say Russ is probably my favorite point guard of all time. So shout out to Brody, man. Favorite favorite point guard of all time, and a Thunder legend. And they have fond memories of what he was able to do for my franchise, bro. So thank you, Russ. You are one of my favorite players of all time, and I always keep your legacy alive on this platform.
Emotional there from CJ, Thunder fandom coming out in full force. But Westbrook played for both of these teams that we're going to talk about next, interestingly enough. I'll get right into it. The Lakers were sold again. For people who don't know, Mark Walter was the former owner of the LA Lakers. Mark Walter owns the LA Dodgers, who just spend money to no end in the MLB, and the MLB doesn't have a salary cap. But yeah, this doesn't happen really ever in the NBA. Rarely will you see a team purchased and then sold in the same year. But Mark Walter decided to sell it to Bob Iger and Josh Kushner 5 days ago. And I don't feel any ways about it specifically. I think it's more on a Mark Walter situation, his personal and his financial situation. He wanted to, I think he acquired the Lakers for $10 billion and sold it for $13 billion. So a quick $3 billion in less than a year. I mean, who's complaining about that, right? So just to put that in perspective for you guys, be like, why would he sell it? This is a personal opinion of mine, but he wasn't ever in it for the long haul. He wasn't somebody that was around since the 2000s, like Jeannie Buss, who I'll speak about in a second, but she's been around for forever, right? Mm-hmm. He wasn't Lakers family to the death. He was really looking at this as a profit grab, and he capitalized on that mission. And so that's why he was able to exit so swiftly. The Lakers, if they're up for sale, they are not up for sale long. There's rich people in the world who want to buy the Los Angeles Lakers just based off the prestige and what they mean to the NBA and just in culture in general. So it's not hard to sell the Lakers, luckily. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Josh Kushner, Bob Iger, they're not the greatest of people necessarily. Other billionaires who are pretty interesting characters. But Jeannie Buss did sell her share today because of that reason. She doesn't necessarily agree with some of the philosophies of those two guys that I just mentioned, and she decided that it was time to move on. And as a Lakers fan, I've been around since 2001. I don't know much about 70s, 80s, 90s Lakers because I wasn't there, but I will say I know Jeannie Buss was always making an impact in the front office, and she will be deeply missed. She will probably have, some sort of memorial in, crypto, I'm assuming, not a statue, but something to recognize her contributions to the team. She's that important. And I was talking to you about it. I think she's done a great job of getting certain free agents. She managed Kobe's, you could say, off the court issues very well. She's helped build up players in a respectable manner. So I think she's done a great job, and I appreciate what she means to LA in general. And I understand that if you've been a fan for more than 40 years, which I have not, but I am one day hoping to be, Jeannie Buss has been there the entire time. So just for people who may not know, the Lakers were sold again. It's not going to impact you financially or anything like that, but I will bring this up as a closing thought. Not a lot of teams who get sold win a championship in that same year. Mm-hmm. I'll say that. So, if especially if Mark Walters, if ownership is changing hands so much, that's probably not a good thing. But again, yeah, Kushner and Iger were able to pounce, and I said it earlier, but the Lakers are not a hard franchise to sell, right? It's not like a struggling franchise. Money's going to be good. It's in LA. The situation is there to support the reason to purchase, but I really don't feel any ways, even as a Lakers fan. I don't know if it's going to impact too much on the court. Pelinka's still there, but it does trickle down. It starts with ownership, so hopefully everything's good on that front in the Lakers camp at least. But it's not something you necessarily love to see a month and a half, 2 months before the season, 2.5 months before the season. But the Clippers, CJ, did you hear? I don't know if you saw on ESPN or what Pablo Torre had said, but they're not guilty of circumventing the salary cap. So Steve Ballmer didn't funnel money through aspiration to Kawhi Leonard, supposedly. And what are your opinions on that? Is this just the billionaires row, or billionaires taking over the NBA right now, or what?
Yeah, it seems like it, bro. You know, you had mentioned it a little bit before we had started, saying it looks like the billionaires won right now, and it seems so, because it's a little fishy for me and you, because you know you kind of brought it up as well. This whole past, almost full calendar year at this point, they've been, they found out about it. Oh, aspiration, Kawhi potentially, they trying to give him more money and this and that. It's like, what happened then? Like, why you did all this time to investigate and you
Yeah.
didn't find anything? So it's a little, baffling in my opinion, because something had to go wrong, right? Or not wrong, but
Wrong.
something
Yeah.
something happened to where it was sus enough for you to have an investigation, but you didn't find anything. So yeah, it seems like, like you said, the billionaires are, potentially going to be running this league at a certain point, which, they already almost were anyways. It just sucks to see it because, like you said, Adam Silver, since his tenure as a commissioner, seems like he's been very good about changing stuff and, taking into account all the things that has happened in the league, listening to other GMs and owners, seeing what they think. And, it's going to be interesting to see how everyone else reacts, not just us, obviously, but owners of teams and GMs and everything. And, because if they got away with it, what are the possibilities for any other team to get away with it? It's kind of setting the standard, and if that's the standard for the league, it's not going to be good. You know what I mean? Because it gets a little just sneaky and slimy. I feel like that's kind of the type of feeling I'm getting from this, and it's not a good precedent to set for the league. Because obviously Clippers didn't win, but that it's not even that. It's the fact that they could potentially have were able to to pay a player more money than they were promised and not getting any punishment. Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word, but
it's truth be told, maybe you don't want to say this, and I don't remember if you may not remember what I said about this situation a month ago, but it's an embarrassment for the NBA. I don't want to harp on the WNBA here, but similar to their mishaps right now, just in general, right? Like, you take Caitlin, I think, what was it? Caitlin Clark's going crazy all the time. She's always, the body language isn't good, whatever. Olivia Miles, right? Superstar of the WNBA. She's not getting promoted. They're having Angel Reese and Paige Becker's betting on the game. They're not able to define what a woman is, right? Like Enos Kanter and Royce Williams are declaring for WNBA, all this clown show, right? But this is the NBA, and to your point, Steve Ballmer, billionaire, can definitely find ways to pay his players behind the scenes, and this is a failure on Adam Silver's part to enforce punishment on somebody who clearly broke the rules. And that's just me. There's a lot of evidence, because they said they found no evidence, but you guys can look it up whenever this pod drops. Just look up Clippers Kawhi Leonard salary circumvention, and I'm sure the Pablo Torre evidence will pop up. So it's interesting that the NBA's lawyers didn't find any pure evidence of any wrongdoing. And another thing is it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time for us talking about it too, because nothing happened. I think this whole thing is just a mess. So glad that it's behind us, but it doesn't look good on Adam Silver's part. And kind of like you said, it sets a poor precedent for what's to be expected in the future and their ability to manage the salary cap, because it's pretty clear that there was some rules broken. Again, the aspiration CEO is guilty. I think he's behind bars for 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know his name, but done some research into it. I don't know how that person is in prison unless they did something wrong. And yeah, they're guilty of something. And most likely that would make kind of the Clippers guilty by association, because they were wrapped up in it. but it's neither here nor there. The two LA teams got some drama coming out of the beautiful city of LA and Cali, and the Clippers, man, getting Brandon Ingram now. It's official. That trade will go through the league office, and Kawhi will be on Toronto, and you'll be able to let bygones be bygones, and we'll see. We'll once we get to those guys in the offseason files, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. But just an interesting situation for the Clippers, and they're very lucky. Very lucky, because I thought there was going to be a punishment. I thought we were going to have more to talk about, but if the NBA found nothing, then they found nothing, guys.
Yeah, let's say there's nothing for us to speak on then, sadly, because I was expecting for them to be punished, potential first round picks, or they have to take
I thought their picks were going to be frozen.
Take that money that you gave to Kawhi underneath the table, take it out of your that's taking out your salary or something, you know what I mean? So it's interesting, like you say, especially if the CEO of the company that paid him, apparently, quote unquote, is in jail, then he did something wrong. Something had to go wrong for him to be behind bars. So it's interesting, man. Like you said, I didn't want to say it, but it is embarrassing for the NBA, because I feel like this stuff is happening. And a team got caught, but then you look through evidence and nothing was found. It's
after 11 months too. It took you after 11 months. It took you 11 months to find nothing.
Nothing.
All right, moving on. Denver Nuggets offseason file. The way that we do this is we talk about the three players that the franchise is building around. In this case, it's the Denver Nuggets. We like to get into their balance sheet as well, so we'll talk about what their cap table looks like, right? How much they're paying for their roster, and when we get into their draft picks, the ones that they own, their incoming picks from other teams, and then the ones that they're trading away, their outgoing picks. But CJ, I'll take it away. I'll start with some of these players. You can do the next one, and then I'll finish it off. But man, this player, clearly the number one player that the Nuggets are building around, it's none other than Nikola Jokic. Denver's championships hopes began with Nikola Jokic. Clearly, at 31 years old, Jokic averaged 27.7 points, a league-leading 12.9 rebounds last year, and a league-leading 10.7 assists. Oh, I'm not going to go too much into depth with this, but what he's done the last 5 years has been unreal, and we talk about it. We talk about him like this every time, it seems. I'm sure if you guys can go back and check in the last year's offseason file for Denver, we spoke very highly of Jokic. Same thing, if not better, this year. Mm-hmm. But I will say, I said it in the hot take, whatever, I didn't think he would finish. He would get higher than third this season just because of what Shea and Wemby were doing. And I wasn't that far off. At times he was second. But at the end of the season, Wemby ended up passing him. So It wasn't like it was that far off of a guess, to be honest. I do think he's facing an uphill battle now with Shea and Wemby and Luka in the fold. Mm-hmm. So could be another hot take, but I don't think Jokic will win another MVP in his career, just given the situation. He has to outplay himself to win more MVPs, and that's just insane. Last year he led the league in rebounds and assists and didn't win the MVP, just to put it in perspective. So Jokic has to do more than every other player in the world to win another MVP. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I personally don't believe that will happen just because of the situation that he's been placed in. The West is very tough. He's a brilliant player. The player efficiency rating speaks for itself. He leads the league in that category pretty much every season. Last year, Shea did, which is why Shea won the MVP again. Mm-hmm. But make no mistake, Jokic is, in my opinion, the greatest center ever. I haven't seen a center be able to control the game the way that Nikola Jokic has been able to do so. And even last year, leading the league in assists as a center is just
unreal.
It's unreal. He became the first. He became the first player in history to lead the league in rebounds and assists in the same season. Because again, you got to think about it. Most likely, even we were just talking about Westbrook. Westbrook was grabbing 11 boards, right? Well, there's a center who grabs 13 a game, right? Jokic is that center who's grabbing 13 a game, 13 rebounds, and passing 11 assists, 12 assists a night. So that's a very rare feat to complete because you have to be tall enough to get a lot of rebounds per game. And then you also have to be, you have to be able to control the ball well enough to pass to get 11, 12 assists, which is usually reserved for point guards. So again, he was able to control every single possession. He's been doing this for the last 5 or 6 seasons. This isn't really a surprise. He finished third in MVP voting last season. He earned first team All-NBA unanimous last year as well. He has 8 total All-NBA honors throughout his career to go alongside his 3 MVP awards, which sit pretty. He is due for an extension next season in the 2027-2028 season, but he's currently under contract for a 5-year, $264 million supermax that carries through next season. So we've heard that Jokic wants to remain a Nugget for the foreseeable future. He's said that verbatim. So Nuggets fans, you guys feel some sense of security with that. But CJ and I both know that the bill is coming due to pay him $70 million a year. He most likely is in the running for being the most expensive, paid player in the NBA, but annually specifically, he will be the highest paid player annually in the NBA, most likely next season, especially if he signs this extension with the Nuggets. And some foreshadowing for Denver, that's not necessarily great. Their balance sheet is really not in the place to be paying even more money than they currently are. And even on the deal that they currently have him under, Denver's in the second apron. So again, we expect Jokic to be a Nugget for life. It makes sense to take care of the guys who have brought your team some sort of respectability. Again, like I would argue the Nuggets, it's not like the Nuggets in the 2000s weren't competitive. I don't want to say that because they got Melo and they had J.R. Smith and like AI, and they were definitely competing with the Spurs and stuff like that. But definitely the Nuggets got put on the map by Jokic, no doubt. Bringing them 100%. A championship, making them a consistent threat in the West. Like, that's all him. So we get wanting to show respect to a player of that caliber. But in the future, you do have to be mindful that he's going to get paid upwards of $70 million a year. So he's already won a championship for them. He's also won a finals MVP. They've seen the historic production that clearly translates in the playoffs and in the regular season. The blueprint's pretty simple now. You just got to surround him with some defense, some shooting, definitely some athleticism and depth. But Denver has the simplest blueprint out of anybody in the league, honestly, just because of how dangerous of a player that Jokic is, right? And it makes it very simple because Jokic makes every single player better that he plays with. So as long as you have guys that are decent at certain things, they're going to improve 10%. So if a guy's shooting 35%, they might be able to shoot 40% just playing with Jokic, right? So he's such an offensive hub that it's really not too hard to build around him. I think Stan Kroenke and David Adelman, their head coach, has a fairly easy job. Obviously, it's hard being a coach of the NBA, but Nikola Jokic is having another on-court coach out there, basically. So to run the show, there's really no better player to run your offense. And he's in his prime right now. Like you said, he's 31. The Nuggets always have a legitimate chance to push for a title if Jokic is healthy. Last season, he wasn't. That was the first time where there could be some question marks with that, if you want to even say that. But this season, he'll be more locked in. He'll be focused. Will he be top 2? Will he finish first in MVP voting? Don't really know. That's yet to be foreseen. I don't think it'll happen just because of the bar that he's already set for himself. And again, having those 3 MVPs and continuously averaging triple doubles throughout the season, it's just ridiculous what he's been able to do. So the Nuggets are clearly building around Jokic as their main centerpiece. And, having a 3-time MVP to build around isn't too much of a bad thing. So we'll see if they can turn the roster that they have right now into another championship. It's been a couple seasons since that's happened. And you do have to be mindful of that. Like, what is this roster really capable of now that they've been to the mountaintop, been back down that hill? Can they get back to that point? Well, we know Jokic is going to be involved in that in some way, shape, or form. And it doesn't seem like he's slowing down. In fact, it seems like he's getting better. Just the competition is starting to get a little harder.
Yeah, no, you said it perfectly, bro. I feel like Jokic don't really have to say much about him as a player, but just what you were saying about him, potentially not getting another MVP for the rest of his career. I wouldn't be too surprised just because, like you said, he set the bar for himself so high to where he has to over exceed the expectation that he set for himself. Not only that, but also having to be, one of the best teams in the West is already a task in its own. So it'll be interesting to see what they look like. I mean, I remember going into this past season, we were talking about how this is probably one of the deepest team rosters that Jokic has had as a Nugget. And, they did pretty well, especially for him being out. I think it kind of proved the depth, but they dealt with so much injuries. Peyton Watson, Aaron Gordon, all their forwards, So with that being said, though, I think it's Jokic, though, probably the greatest center I've ever seen play. Offensive hub that can do what he's been doing for the last, going almost on a decade at this point, and being consistent, obviously durable besides his last season, but seeing what he can do night in, night out, it baffles my mind just because I've never seen that from a center personally, being able to score on all three levels, pass the ball and rebound. And, he's not the greatest defensively, but he plays good enough defense for the offensive, tasks that he's been given for this roster. So shout out to Jokic, of course, one of the greatest of all time. And, like you said, he already has 3 MVPs. So, once you get past 2, 3, it doesn't get a lot easier to get those the MVP awards, especially now with the Wembys, the Sheas, the Lucas, who still hasn't got one, and that was my dark horse, or that was my MVP winner. So it's interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see what he looks like. I'm assuming he's probably gonna get around the same stats, so that's not anything to doubt or second guess. Yeah, like he's gonna do his thing. It's just everyone else, and obviously the other players that they're building around, which going into the second player that we think the Denver Nuggets are building around, Aaron Gordon, man. Aaron Gordon continues to be the ultimate do-it-all forward for Denver, giving the team production that goes far beyond traditional numbers. Gordon put together a strong season with 16.2 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 2.7 assists per game, while connecting on 49.7% of his shots and 38.9% of his threes, I think that was the main thing for us. Last year we saw what he was able to do in the playoffs, that incredible series he had against the Clippers, the tip-in game winner, knocking down threes, and then obviously the series that he had against us.
Yeah, we went live for that 50 spot.
50, yeah. First game of the year? We saw him drop 50. So, we were obviously like, what? Aaron Gordon hitting 7 threes in a game? Oh, he's going to average, 25, whatever it is. So seeing how much he's improved from the 3-point line is incredible because, for one, he was already, I just mentioned it, do-it-all forward. He can rebound, defend at a very high level, and attack the rim with the best of them. Adding a 3-point shot, it just kind of is like the last part of the game that a last part of his game that he needed to work on. And this past season, damn near 40%. What more could you ask from for him? Obviously, durability and whatnot, but we'll get into that a little bit later into the segment. But his 4-year, $133 million extension shows how highly the organization values his versatility and the role he plays on both ends of the floor. Gordon can guard nearly every position, punish smaller defenders around the rim, hit open threes, and bring the physicality Denver needs every night. And kind of going back to what I was saying, bro, like adding that 3-point shot, we knew he was a great defensive player. He could guard anybody. And then if you're have a smaller guard on him, smaller forward, he's going to bully him. We saw that all year too, whenever he was going to be able to be on the court. So, shout out to Aaron Gordon. Can't praise him enough for adding that 3-point shot. It just adds a whole different aspect in how you have to play the Nuggets. His combination of size, athleticism, defense, and improved shooting gives Denver the flexibility to create several different lineups without sacrificing its identity. The problem this season was availability, like I just mentioned, as injuries held him out only to 36 regular season appearances and prevented him from building any real consistency. That was my main thing for him, right? That's what I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, just the availability for Aaron Gordon. I feel like that's not last season, the prior season when we went against them in the Western Conference semifinals. He ended up, hurting his hamstring, game 7, I believe, and then was out. Obviously, they ended up losing that, and then coming back into the this past season that we just were watching, 50 points, first game of the year. Thought he was gonna, kind of keep that momentum going, and then just injuries really all season long. Hamstrings, back injuries, whatever it is, little knick-knack injuries that was keeping him out for a long while. Just he wasn't really able to build anything off, but obviously he did shot well from the floor, but it was the amount of games that he was able to play. Z, that was my only real negative thing about this past season for him.
Yeah, AG is usually he's gone through a lot too, like the stuff with his brother, a lot of the injuries recently over the last year and a half, but he's shown up consistently whenever possible. Even in that game, he tried to go out there and perform.
Mm-hmm.
This season, hopefully he can stay healthy and try to get to 60 games. I would say that'd be a win for him. And yeah, just his play style, man. He also, like you said, he guards all 5 positions, and he plays with brute force. He's definitely no stranger to contact, but yeah, the availability is something that could hold AG back if he's not careful. And some of the injuries that he's had have been alarming, right?
Mm-hmm.
The hamstring injury was really alarming. Similar to Jalen Williams, it's tough to come back from those things. Similar to Luka Doncic, right? We see Luka. The last time I saw Luka Doncic was he drove left, pulled up for a jump shot, and couldn't do it.
Yep.
In the Thunder Arena.
Paycom.
That's the last time I saw. Yeah, in Paycom Center. That was the last time I saw him play.
And we were live.
That was 3.5 months ago.
Yeah.
To put it in perspective, the hamstrings are just not a fun thing to mess around with. So hopefully he can be healthy. We know Denver fans have stuck by Aaron Gordon's side, even when he came from the Magic, and this guy was a lottery pick. He hasn't turned out, whatever, yada, yada, yada. He's turned into one of the more dangerous glue guys in the NBA, bro. So props to AG, even with the missed games. I mean, his value just shows up tremendously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you said, it shows up in how much smoother Denver's offense and defense operates when he's on the floor, especially in transition and in switch-heavy defensive schemes. Gordon has already proven that he can be a high-level difference maker, and Denver is building around him because players with his two-way versatility and extremely difficult to replace.
Yeah, it makes sense. You can't really replace that too easily, especially in today's CBA. You get the Aaron Gordon on your team, you feel lucky to have him. So he's the big X factor in this, right?
I agree.
This next player I'm going to talk about is another gimme.
Yep.
But if Aaron Gordon has a season where he's averaging 18 and 5 and 6, shooting 40% from 3, oh man, the Nuggets are woo-wee.
Yeah. They would be dangerous.
They'd be dangerous. So I do want to say that he's an X factor in that type of way. And we haven't talked much about Aaron Gordon this year because he's been gone.
Yep.
And he missed, I would say, 2/3 of the year, right? So we didn't talk about him much during the year. That's why we do the offseason files, though, for players like this. So, you kind of forget about AG. And if you weren't watching the NBA, especially at the end, which, again, how could you not? That Knicks Spurs finals was crazy. But, if you weren't watching at the end of the year, during the playoffs, then these are the types of players that can win you championships. The OG Ananobis, the Aaron Gordons. So it just goes without saying, man, he's one of the most impactful players in the NBA, and for surely one of the most impactful players on the Nuggets roster. So shout out Aaron Gordon, man. He's awesome. But going into our next player, third and final player, man, from Canada, it's none other than Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray has firmly established himself as one of the driving forces behind everything Denver wants to accomplish. Murray is coming off one of the best regular seasons of his career, the best regular season of his career. He was averaging career highs in points, 25.4, assists, 7, and rebounds, 4.4, while shooting 48% from the floor, about 36 percent from deep. But I mean, he had a great year last year, bro. Jamal Murray looked amazing. Top 10 point guard in the NBA. Want to give him my props. The All-Star appearance was long overdue, but seeing him do this in the regular season, being available, it was awesome. I would argue that was definitely the Jamal Murray that CJ and I have grown up watching. Just what he was able to do in clutch time, which I'll talk about here in a second. But his efficiency, man, shooting 85% from the line, hitting 30, like I said, 36, 37% of his threes, on top of almost shooting 50% from the floor at the point guard spot. And then the assists, bro. The way that he ran the pick and roll with Jokic last year was extremely deadly. That's always been something they can kind of go to the well to, but it just seems like it gets better every single year. And when we talk about points per possession, PPP, that specific play is a top 5 play in the NBA. The Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic pick and roll. Denver has also made its commitment really clear to Murray. He signed a 4-year extension in 2024 worth $208 million. With an average annual salary of about $52 million per year. This contract will keep him under contract until the 2028-2029 season. So they've committed a lot of money to him. He's proven worthy of that number, in my opinion. He's one of the better scorers that we have in the NBA, and similar to Kyrie, he doesn't really use his athleticism too much. It's more of east-west. He's athletic on his feet. Jamal Murray can dunk on you, though. He's got sneaky bounce. Every once in a while, he'll catch those posters just to remind people. But I think he caught a body on LeBron a couple seasons ago in the playoffs. It was kind of, I was like, whoa.
But forgot he could do that. Yeah.
But he uses his athleticism to get to his spots. He's in a super efficient mid-range shooter. And Jamal Murray is just a dangerous scorer, man. And I think his maturity for me has been in like the turnover department. He's really cut down on that, and then being a better overall like point guard instead of just a scoring point. He's always been able to score really well. He was scoring at Kentucky. He was scoring his rookie season. He's been scoring his entire career, but just becoming the true point guard that Denver needs him to be is what his maturity has shown me over the last couple seasons. He also made third team All-NBA last year. And yeah, man, he's always delivering in big moments. He was ranking among the league leaders in clutch time scoring last year, top 5 if I'm not mistaken. And we've seen him in late game situations hit buzzer beaters. He's their go-to guy when the game is on the line, even more so than Jokic. They're getting the ball to Jamal Murray just because of his capability of hitting big time shots. We've seen that. Lakers and Nuggets have had some crazy playoff series, and he's always torched us in the playoffs, bro. Every single time. He thrives as a pick and roll threat. He's able to pull up from 3, can pull up in transition. He's able to hit fading threes. He just punishes defenses that have weak guard play, that can't stick other opposing teams' guards, similar to Shea. He'll punish a matchup like Austin Reeves, who is a great offensive player, but when you got to put him on Jamal Murray, sometimes things aren't going to go too well. And so Jamal Murray, in my opinion, is like one of the point guards I would love to have on my team. If I was choosing, if I had to pick a squad right now, I would definitely think about him being on the team. Maybe he wouldn't be my starting point guard, but he would be in the conversation just because of the way that he plays. So as long as Denver can surround him with, I would say like length. Jamal Murray's a tinier player, so just Peyton Watson's, the Aaron Gordons of the world, Christian Browns. He's already surrounded by those players to kind of cover up his defensive inabilities, because that's the one knock on his game is he's not the best defender, and that's usually the case with these crazy good scoring guards. They're usually not the best on defense, unfortunately. So him and Jokic are the main pairing in this equation, and hopefully Denver can ride them to another championship appearance. The Nuggets fans already know what Jamal Murray and Jokic can do together. Last season, they were probably a little surprised to see that in full picture, because Jamal Murray hasn't made an All-Star team yet, or an All-NBA team yet during the season. He's usually doing this in the playoffs. So do want to give him our props here. He's been brilliant the last season and a half, and he looks like he's finally rounding out into his prime, just the full form Jamal Murray that we all know and love. He's been healthy. Just a great year from Jamal. So no doubt a player that the Nuggets are building around.
Yeah, you said it perfectly, bro. This was probably, I mean, obviously, statistically wise, his greatest season of his career, but even the games played, I'm looking at his regular season averages and whatnot. Prior to this season, he played 75 games. He started 75. Prior to that, comparing to every season, 2018, 2019, he played 75 games and started 74. So, everything else 67, 59, 65, 48, 59. So durable. I didn't realize he only missed 7 games. That's kind of crazy for how well he played. His production didn't drop off. It seemed like it got better even when Jokic was injured. Obviously, when Jokic is there, his game just opens up even more. Like you just mentioned, that pick and roll. That's probably one of the best 2-man duos in this league. Honestly, just super versatile, attack you from every level, and then obviously when you surround them with the Aaron Gordons, the Peyton Watsons, Christian Browns, Julian Strouthers, like athletic wings that can play defense and hit threes when they're if they're open. It's that's the type of a team that you need to build around these type of players. And Jamal Murray, man, shout out to 9 years into your career, your first All-Star appearance. I think it goes to show the type of player that he hasn't given up on his game, his game type, and the way he goes about his business year in year out. I think it goes to show, like you said, this is a one of those that you kind of wrote in as well. Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, those are the two, right? And then obviously we put Aaron Gordon, but Jamal Murray is in that mix for sure. Like you said, he's a type of point guard. Obviously, I got Shea on my team, but if I were to start a team and it was like a draft, like a fantasy draft, I would definitely consider him because he's an elite scorer, and especially his playmaking has improved, and like you said, cutting back on the turnovers as well. I think he's rounded out his game perfectly, and we're starting to see his prime form right now. Being 29, about to hit 30 this upcoming season, I think he's gotten his groove in.
Exactly, yeah, and the Nuggets. Their core isn't the question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't really even know if anybody else would go above Aaron Gordon. So the Nuggets have had this core. That's who they paid. They're paying these guys $150 million a year annually between the three, probably more. So it needs to work out between these three players. And so far they've gotten a championship out of it. So they're never going to have to apologize. And Nuggets fans, that was a few seasons ago, but you guys still feel that, right? It's not like that was 20 years ago or something,
right?
So it's recent enough to where it's still, you definitely feel the after effects of that. And to CJ's point, it was really a no-brainer for the three players that the Nuggets were building around. So just more life to y'all, man. Hopefully y'all can figure out some things in the playoffs because we want to see you guys back playing competitive basketball. Last few seasons have been disappointing exits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been tough to see it. I mean, obviously not for me. I'm a Thunder fan. We beat them, but like you said, just seeing Jokic, Jamal Murray in those clutch moments, playoff environments. It's as a fan going against them, not great, but as just enjoyer of hoops, whenever you get to watch it, it's incredible. It's the best duo in the league, in my opinion, and they're just lethal, bro. So it's a nightmare on the defensive side to try to stop those guys. We've seen it. I've seen it. You've had to deal with it as well. Like you said, anytime y'all have gone against them, it's been crazy series, and same with us. We got to go. Both of us have been trying to go through them for the last 6 years. You know what I mean? So shout out to Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic, the three players that the Denver Nuggets are building around. But piggybacking off of that, Z, let's dive deep into their cap and roster situations. So their total active payroll, for everyone that doesn't know, the cap maximum is $164.9 million. Active cap right now for the Denver Nuggets, Z, we talked about this, $215 million. You know how that goes, right? Dead cap, $2 million.
Yeah.
Some cap holds, $37 million, which looks like it's a plethora of people. No one that I think would. Sorry, Peyton Watson. Just the
I was
elephant
about
in
to
the
say
room,
the
right?
majority.
I was like,
The majority is Peyton
Peyton
Watson.
Watson. Yeah, yeah. Everyone else is kind of, they kind of have just people that they waived and whatnot. But some total cap allocations, though, it's 254 million, Z, which has them with almost negative 90 million, negative 89 million to be exact. So,
In cap space,
in
yeah.
cap space.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's not too good, man. Similar to the Cavs, it's just a lot of spending. And for what you're getting, the question has to be asked, is it worth it, right? I think they spent this money because of what they got,
Yes.
not what they were going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, like the Thunder paid for what they got and what they're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
The Nuggets might be in a situation where, again, they moved off MPJ, like that was a good move. Coach Malone being fired, Calvin Booth being fired, whatever the case may be in the past, yada, yada, yada. People were getting paid left and right. Okay. But yeah, when you look at this, the cap hold situation is interesting because Peyton Watson still hasn't signed yet, but he's a restricted free agent. So if he doesn't, he'll go back to the Nuggets on the minimum that he can. And then I don't know who the other players are in the cap hold situation, but that's not the problem. It's mainly Christian Brown. I think Jokic, Murray, Gordon, Brown, uh,
Cam Johnson.
Watson, and Cam Johnson. I believe this may not be true, but Watson should probably get more than Cam Johnson, but I don't think he will.
Yeah.
So we'll see just how that situation plays out. But it's just the second apron, so there's not too much to really say outside of that. Like they paid their core $200 million or whatever, $175 million, and to build off of that, you're betting on Christian Brown and Cam Johnson, who was in the MPGA trade, and then you're hoping Peyton Watson turns out, which he has, but it means you have to pay him, and the way that the second apron works, that's not really a possibility. So the Nuggets are in a tough boat, man. It's not really a simple black and white thing. Oh, they do this will fix this or whatever. They really need everybody on their team. If they were to let go of one of these guys, then their team would take a massive hit. So they're going to owe a lot of money in the tax, and Kroenke's got to be okay with that. And, I'm sure he is, because this team is pretty darn good. Tier 2 team. They're going to be competing for a championship, and their fans understand that. So as long as everybody's aligned and okay with it, I don't hate it. They are in a better spot than the Cavs are. So for what that's worth, for second apron teams. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't have much to say. It just seems like they opened their checkbook right after the championship window had not closed, but when were they realistically going to win another title over the next 5 years? And the 4-year, I think Christian Brown's on a 5-year deal. I saw a lot of 4-year, 5-year. That's a long time, man.
Yeah.
For example, like
5 year,
on a
125.
3-year deal. Yeah. So you just want to be careful with that type of length, right?
Yeah,
So.
yeah, especially like you said, when the new CBA and everything, it's kind of not penalizing these teams, but you're paying your guys, right? You're paying your core. That's over 50% of your budget, let's say, and then you're having to have the leftovers to all these younger guys that you're drafting. But the situation they're in right now with Peyton Watson, you drafted him, he ended up panning out. But now, since he's a valuable asset to y'all have to pay him. But with the situation that you are in right now, with your cap and your roster situation, it's kind of hard. Like, you literally can't. You know what I mean? So it sucks because, like, of course, like, I'm, fast forward 5 years, something I could be looking at the Thunders, not projecting it because we're a lot younger. These guys are, late 20s, early 30s, right? That's their core. With Jamal, they're almost all 30s, so Thunder a little bit younger, but I get paying your guys, but that Christian Brown contract, bro, it's not looking good, especially with his availability. He could bounce back. He could have a bounce back season, and he'll have me biting my words. But from this past season and what that's looked like, and his availability, even when he was on the court, obviously I get it. He didn't have a lot of, he couldn't get the reps in throughout the whole season, kind of like Aaron Gordon. But Aaron Gordon seemed like he was impacting the game more when he was on the court. So that justifies him to be getting paid almost 32 mil this year. But Christian Brown getting paid 21 mil right now, that we'll see what that looks like. But as of right now, I don't think that's probably their worst contract that they have on their books right now.
I agree. And I'll play devil's advocate. This might piss some people off, whatever, but the Nuggets aren't that good to be paying this amount of money, right? Same with the Cavs. Like, they're not that good to be deep into the second apron.
Yeah.
I mean, who are we kidding? But we said it about Jokic, and we talked about him for 5 minutes. It could have been a whole hour podcast. But if you have him on the roster, when you're looking at, like, let's play 2K, for example. If you guys had this team on 2K, and you were looking at a 97 overall, you're like, okay, he's probably going to be pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to keep Jokic, right? I'm probably prioritizing Jokic. Everyone else can stick it, really, if we're not going to win a championship. I mean, who's not to say Jamal Murray's not like not for a trade, but up for question. I think everybody is up for question except Jokic, and Aaron Gordon is too, because he's not healthy, and they will have to salvage. Because if I'm a team in the NBA, I'm like, oh, I want a Nuggets 2031 pick.
Mm-hmm.
That first round pick smells juicy, boy. They're gonna suck.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably gonna suck. So, like, yeah, if you're not a Nuggets fan, then you could play devil's advocate and say they're not, like, what they're getting isn't worth what they're paying for, and I don't disagree with you, but I do still think the Nuggets are dangerous enough to get to the finals just based on what they have. And not a lot of teams can say that. And I think they're more dangerous than the Cavs are.
I agree. I think that's it's interesting because I feel like that's obviously a great position for your team to be in, right? But I feel like that can also be a detriment to your team at the same time, because you feel like you're getting a little complacent. You have one of the greatest players we've ever seen on your roster, and then you have a great supporting cast with him. But is that enough? You know what I mean? It can be, but will it be? And I think that's kind of where not a lot of teams, but that's kind of like Warriors, right? Like, they're kind of in the same boat for me, the Steph Currys of the world, even like, when you have like those type of players that can, no, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, I'm bringing up another example of it. You know what I mean? Like, you have that type of player where he's on the roster. Oh, we have a chance, right? And I think it can be a detriment to
fans. Just don't want to hear that shit.
I know. But I think that
we're doing Golden State soon. So yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, Curry, that's a perfect example of like a team that's, you don't want to say it, but it's like that.
Yeah. I mean, Golden State, I would say Denver's above them without a doubt, but it's when you have that type of player and you feel like.
Let me ask you this question. Let's say Golden State's like a 7 seed, and they're playing like a Timberwolves in the first round. No. Let's say like Timberwolves are like the 2 seed or something crazy.
Okay.
The Spurs are 3, the Thunder are 1.
Okay.
And they're playing the Timberwolves. They beat the Timberwolves in round 1. Do you think the Warriors like can't win though? Like, if as long as they are in this situation, right?
Yeah.
Because Curry's good enough to like.
Yeah,
do something.
I agree with you.
But like you're saying, can they get there? I don't know.
Right. It would have to be perfect scenarios. Someone takes a leap. Someone has a
somebody gets hurt, maybe.
Right. Someone gets hurt to where it's everything has to play out right. But I mean, I think that's the beauty of basketball. It's possible. So, but
the Warriors aren't hopeless. Basically, like in the Nuggets, are far from hopeless, but their
Right.
balance sheet is hopeless. Like
Yes.
it's not really lining up with what they're expecting. And I'd say the Warriors is in the same boat too. Like it's not. That's a good example for it. I think the Warriors fans are probably like, oh man,
Like, damn, we don't want to hear that.
damn, bro, chill. This is the Nuggets one.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah, it's it's like the reality of the CBA. We're gonna sound like a broken record on some of these offseason files, but the reality of it is the Nuggets paid their players that won them a championship, and they're dealing with the repercussions of that. Whether or not it's a punishment is up to them, depending on how well they play.
Yeah.
But it's, as of right now, it's pretty bleak, and they're deep into the second apron. The Cavs and the Nuggets are the two most expensive teams in the NBA.
Yeah, man. And kind of piggybacking off that, Z, something else that we bring up, right? The draft capital. They don't have a lot, first and foremost, but
they don't have much.
Their own picks that they own, obviously. 2031 and a 2033 first round pick. That's a little glaring for me. That doesn't look too good for your future, right? And then they have a 2033 second round pick.
You think they would trade the 2031 or 2033? Because they only have two. Those will be worth something.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, that's if you're
can they do it?
I was about to say, because I know, because you can't just trade away all your future anymore. Like that's like you can't do that. So maybe they have to keep.
Yeah, I don't think they can. And they also might have it frozen anyway. So who knows? It's just so far out right now that 5 to 7 years is like the cutoff. But in 2028, if they're in the second apron, then they'll have those picks frozen anyway. So I don't know if they'll. Never mind.
Yeah, but some outgoing picks. This is where it gets a little dicey for the Nuggets fans. 2027 pick, their first round pick is to OKC. It's top 5 protected, and they have a second round pick to Utah. 2028, they have a second round pick to Washington. It's protected 31 to 33. 2029, another first round pick to OKC, top 5 protected. Second to Charlotte or OKC. And then 2030, second round pick to Memphis or OKC. 2031, second round pick to Chicago. And 2032, a second round pick to Brooklyn.
Nothing. Not OKC, right?
OKC, yeah.
First top 5 protected.
Right. But we're
2029 and 2027.
We're assuming that they're not gonna, like, that pick isn't probably gonna be a lottery pick, right? Those picks, maybe 2029.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I never try to assume, because again, like, one injury for the Nuggets and their whole season's done. So
right, that's true.
It's fragile. I'll say that.
Yeah. You can't think. We don't know what's gonna happen. So obviously, but.
And they haven't been healthy. I mean, Jokic and Aaron Gordon missed like a combined 80, 90 games last season. Peyton Watson was out too, you know, and that adds up over time. So they were able to tread water during that time period when Jokic was gone, but I think the 2029 first round pick could be better than what the Thunder were expecting it to be when they made that trade.
Yeah, that's promising for me, man. So you know what I mean? Praying that, you know, we'll see what that pick looks like. That's all I'll say. Don't speak too much on it. But some incoming draft picks for them, not that much as well. 2028, they have a second round pick from Minnesota, and 2031, they have a second round pick from Sacramento. So they're like you mentioned it. We mentioned it. We've been talking about it. They're betting on this core that they're in the second apron luxury tax for, because they, you know, traded their picks, and, you know, they don't own any of their first round picks until, you know, 4 years into the future. You know what I mean? So it's tough for them, you know, because that is how you build. That's how, especially when you are a second apron team, you know, you build through the draft. So you could potentially have a rookie scale contract for one of these guys and they outperform it, but they won't have that luxury. So kind of going based off of that, Z, we have to give their balance sheet health unhealthy, man. We haven't had a lot of these. Like you said, it was Cavs first. Now it's the Nuggets, and you said it. They're the two teams that are spending the most money for rosters right now. So it has to be unhealthy, man.
Yeah, that's that's what it is. It's not like that's not a representation of the team and how they'll do. So I wouldn't look too deep into that, but it is a fair grade of the financials, right?
Of course.
But moving on to the team grade, obviously this is how we wrap up the offseason files. But we give an overall team grade for each team, and we take into account the balance sheet and the players they're building around, and kind of what their outlook looks like. And currently we're giving the Denver Nuggets a B+. So they're a tier 2 team, one of the better teams that we've done so far, one of the better teams in the NBA. But one thing I think they can improve on before I ask you is their defense. 21st in defensive rating. They were horrible defensively last year. I think they were giving up 116 points per 100 possessions. This has been the problem with them the last few seasons, is they can't guard a soul. I know the games they had against the Thunder were very high scoring, and you saw it firsthand. They really struggled with switching. And at times just there was no connectivity on that side of the ball. Their pace also impacts that a little bit. They weren't playing super fast, and so with less possessions, every defensive possession that you have really counts. And at times the Nuggets couldn't figure out what was going on that side of the ball, and in the playoffs that really hurt them. I know you might remember, but Jokic losing his cool and throwing the ball at Jaden Daniels. The Timberwolves are running all over them, scoring every single time down the court, and those are some of the lasting yucky memories I have of last season when it comes to Denver in that regard, and some of the things that they can improve on. Offensively, they're gifted as hell. There's really, if you came on this podcast and said, "Oh, the Nuggets have to work on their offense," me and CJ would laugh you out of the room. Like
100%. Like you weren't really watching have you been watching basketball?
We're not watching the same
team,
brother,
yeah.
So clearly the Nuggets don't have a ton of issues offensively. But I know it's probably the same for you too. Their defensive rebounding outside of Jokic, and then their defense overall is horrible sometimes. And similar to the Lakers, like sometimes I'm like, what are we doing? The Nuggets have those situations a lot. I watch them at Ball Arena. The team will. I remember this play vividly. Denny Avila grabs an offensive rebound. This is in Denver, and swings it up court to Shaedon Sharpe, and this is after a made basket from Jokic. And Nuggets fans, you guys know this happens a lot because I know you guys have seen it. But teams will just get the ball out quick and throw it down the other side of the court, and the Nuggets are just running, backs turned, not even and I'm like, bro, this is like high school. Get your ass
back. Run back.
Get your ass. Denny Advia's, he's gonna make you pay for that. And teams who play with pace are, I don't know, man. So I wrote that down a lot in my notes last season when we go through their games. It's just sometimes I would watch the Nuggets on defense and really wonder what was going on. And I think my theory is this: David Adelman is an offensive-minded coach, and I would say he got really lucky being around Jokic and Jamal Murray. He was kind of placed there. But he did do a good job. He's earned his right.
Of course.
But he's always been more offensive focused than a Coach Malone, for example, who really stressed on defense and made sure that the Nuggets tried to guard as well as they could. When they won the championship, they were guarding they weren't guarding at an all-time level, but they were top 10 in defensive rating. They were stringing together possessions. They had players like Bruce Brown, right? They had I was gonna say,
and that's when you are so elite offensively, you have that luxury of not having to be an elite defensive team. You don't need to be top 5. You just need to be above, half of the league, and that can make the difference for you. And I think that is why they won that chip. They weren't a lockdown defense, but they were all on, playing on a string, played good team defense,
connected,
and that's what
rebounds.
separated them that season. And honestly, like you said, we haven't seen that since. Obviously, a lot of things have played into factors, but that is the luxury of being one of the best offenses in the league. You don't need to be a lockdown defense. You just need to be good enough, and that'll help carry you a potential chip or get into that point at least. And kind of going off what you said, that they need to improve on their defense. I think they need to, how should I word this? They need to not rely. They need to invest more into their youth and their depth. I feel like that's the thing we talked about, right? There are three players
outside of Peyton Watson.
outside of Jamal Murray, the three people that we said: Jokic, Gordon, Murray, and then obviously Peyton Watson. The Julian Strothers, they just picked up Marvin Bagley as well.
Oh, he's got to play more, man.
And Tyus Jones, I just want to see them, kind of go deeper into the bench, because we've seen what this team can be when all their stars are playing. But, with Jamal Murray having the season that he just had, not saying that he's not going to replicate that, but for him to be at that same level, and Jokic and Gordon, it's not a lot to ask, because you kind of expect it when you're paying these guys this much money. But you have to trust your young guys, and hopefully one of them can burst onto the scene like how Peyton Watson did. But that's what I want them to really lock in on. Obviously Christian Brown, hoping for the best for you this season, but whatever that looks like, I think he'll have a bounce back season. What that looks like, can't really tell you off the top of my head, but I think he'll be a lot more productive, so that'll help. But with the Cam Johnsons too, obviously he's a starter, but I think they should rely more on their depth, like their bench. The 9th, 8th guy on the roster. Let them get more run, so when come playoff time, Jokic, Jamal Murray, Gordon aren't beat up, or even Peyton Watson, Christian Brown, you've played enough of your guys for them to get reps, get that experience, and then by the time playoffs come, that's when you can really, we know that the lineups shortened to 7-man rotations, 8-man rotations if you have a deep roster, but that's when you can have your top pay guys really show what they're getting paid for. But during the regular season, man, we've seen it. Obviously Jamal Murray playing 75 games was incredible, but Jokic, Gordon missing a lot of time. That was my main thing, that kind of. Also with the depth, but just prioritizing their health. I don't know what that looks like. I think that kind of goes hand in hand, right, with playing a lot of your depth, your good bench players, and
then starters won't be on the court. Yeah,
your starters won't be playing 40 minutes a game or whatever it was that they were doing. So that's what I think they can improve on.
100%. And again, something they should lean into: top 5 in assists last year, 26 a game. That's going to come when your center is getting 12 of them a night or 11 a night, but clearly moving the ball at an all-time level. And CJ and I just spoke highly about their offense. That's going to be something that they need to keep doing, because that's proven dividends for them. And last season specifically was the ball movement. I have it in my notes, but again, just I think the Hawks, Thunder, Nuggets, again, all over 25 assists per game. They were 20th in pace last season too, which is ridiculous. If they sped up the game a little more, imagine how many more assists they would have had. So that's another thing too. Definitely lean into their transition game more if possible. Kind of going back to what they need to improve on. But the assists, moving the ball, getting other people involved. They have weapons at every position now, and they have, like you said, if they lean into their depth, if they're able to. They don't have Joe Val anymore, but Jokic is going to be asked to do a lot. Who's their backup center at this moment?
So they don't technically have a backup center, but they have Zeke Naji as a power forward. Right. They have Bagley, Darren Holmes, and then
Bagley's probably who they. Yeah.
And then Brazel. I think he's the rookie that from Arkansas, I believe.
Arkansas, yeah.
But they don't have a true center.
They'll be able to get spots. Yeah, right. They'll be able to get some spots.
Minutes. Yeah. But and then for them, that's what they needed. I feel like that's that's not why they did so well last year, that they had Joval, but like just having someone else that can eat up those minutes for Jokic. Right.
Yeah, like and grab a board, dunk every once in a while. And but yeah, I think it translates because they run so much pick and roll. Jokic is just such a high efficiency player, and they shoot threes well. So all three of those things add up to a lot of assists. I mean, guys are going to make shots if they're open. Jokic is, again, it's debatable, Curry, Doncic, Shea, but the gravity that he pulls on the court is, second to none in the NBA. And yeah, I mean, overall, I just they're a great team. Again, they're B plus, they're tier 2 team. They're right outside of the main championship contenders. So if you're a Nuggets fan, there's really nothing to be concerned about outside of the balance sheet. And then, yeah, like you brought it up a few times, but what does Christian Brown look like? What does Cam Johnson look like? What does Peyton Watson look like? We said it, Peyton Watson's a 4-star asset. Peyton Watson will probably look the best out of those three.
I agree.
So if you have any worry about that, I would probably put that to bed right there. But it does concern me that those other two guys aren't playing as well when somebody else is. So that's my final take on the Nuggets, what they need to do. They're in a really good spot on the court. They got a couple things they can work on though.
Yeah. I mean, you said it. I'm gonna say, not just gonna say their offense, but it kind of is like the bailout answer, just because they're so elite offensively. You have to lean into whatever you're good at, So I'll just say the pick and roll game with Jokic and Jamal Murray, just keep sticking with it. I'll say that just because that's like I keep bringing it up. That's probably the best 2-man duo we got right now. The way that they're able to play off of each other, pick and rolls, pick and pops. Obviously Jamal Murray attacking the mid range, kicking it out to Jokic, whatever it is. I think they just need to keep doing that. Obviously, I mentioned the other thing that they should work on, and that kind of plays hand in hand with everything I'm kind of saying. But, it's kind of a bailout answer. I don't want to just take the easy way out, but I think, it would be a disservice to the franchise if they don't keep sticking with that. So I say, it's their bread and butter. It's what's gotten them this far. It's what's gotten Jokic these 3 MVPs and final MVP and championship. So stick with it and just, like you said, improve on defensively. Of course, that's going to be what I was going to say, but your rotations, not playing your guys as much as you need to. I think that's something that'll help them, potentially get, back to the top. But, the Wild West is going to be tough. Our teams are in that conference, so we're not rooting for the Nuggets, but we appreciate
not at all.
We appreciate good hoops and what they've been able to accomplish, and just seeing what Jokic and Murray have been able to turn their game into the past couple of years has been remarkable. So I think that's all I got to say about Denver, Rose. Or
yeah. I agree with you on the pick and roll. They're averaging like 1.4 points per possession, Jokic and Murray, and 96th percentile or something crazy. So lean into that. But yeah, that'll do it for me. I'll close the book on the Denver Nuggets offseason file. This video will go up on the website. The website is being done as we speak, as we go through these. All the offseason files are up to date now, including Denver. So you guys check out the link in the description. It'll be there for you to read through. All you basketball nerds are in heaven with that website. So, we appreciate if you take the time to check that out. But yeah, Denver in a really good spot, B plus, one of the better ratings that we've given a team this year. So yeah, I feel like if you're a Nuggets fan, you're probably happy with where your team is. So just got to see what Jokic and Murray can do next year. And yeah, bro, that's it for me.
Yeah, that'll do it for me too, Z. So if y'all liked and enjoyed this episode, 3-Man Weave, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see y'all next time, man. Peace. 3-Man.